The question of why anything at all exists is the most profound question of philosophy. The philosopher Derek Parfit says, "No question is more sublime than why there is a universe, why there is anything, rather than nothing." Typically, atheists have answered this question by saying that the universe is just eternal and uncaused. But there are good reasons, both philosophically and scientifically, to think that the universe began to exist. Philosophically, the idea of an infinite past seems absurd. Just think about it. If the universe never began to exist, that means that the number of past events in the history of the universe is infinite. But mathematicians recognize that the existence of an actually infinite number of things leads to self-contradictions. For example, what is infinity minus infinity? Well, mathematically, you get self-contradictory answers. This shows that infinity is just an idea in your mind, not something that exists in reality. David Hilbert, perhaps the greatest mathematician of the 20th century, wrote, "The infinite is nowhere to be found in reality. It neither exists in nature nor provides a legitimate basis for rational thought. The role that remains for the infinite to play is solely that of an idea." But that entails that since past events are not just ideas, but are real, the number of past events must be finite. Therefore, the series of past events can't go back forever. Rather, the universe must have begun to exist. This conclusion has been confirmed by remarkable discoveries in astronomy and astrophysics. In one of the most startling developments of modern science, we now have pretty strong evidence that the universe is not eternal in the past, but had an absolute beginning about 13 billion years ago in a cataclysmic event known as the Big Bang. What makes the Big Bang so startling is that it represents the origin of the universe from literally nothing. For all matter and energy, even physical space and time themselves, came into being at the Big Bang. As the physicist P.C.W. Davies explains, the coming into being of the universe, as discussed in modern science, is not just a matter of imposing some sort of organization upon a previous incoherent state, but literally the coming into being of all physical things from nothing. Now, this puts the atheist in a very awkward position. As Anthony Kenny of Oxford University urges, a proponent of the Big Bang theory, at least if he is an atheist, must believe that the universe came from nothing and by nothing. But surely that doesn't make sense. Out of nothing, nothing comes. So why does the universe exist instead of just nothing? Where did it come from? There must have been a cause which brought the universe into being. Now, as the cause of space and time, this being must be an uncaused, timeless, spaceless, immaterial being of unfathomable power. Moreover, it must be personal as well. Why? Because the cause must be beyond space and time. Therefore, it cannot be physical or material. Now, there are only two kinds of things that fit that description. Either an abstract object, like numbers, or else a personal mind. But abstract objects can't cause anything. Therefore, it follows that the cause of the universe is a transcendent, intelligent mind. Thus, the cosmological argument gives us a personal creator of the universe.
For centuries, scientists believed that the universe had existed forever because that's what Aristotle had taught. The Bible, however, had been insisting for millennia, in the beginning God created the universe. There was a beginning. Science caught up with that in the 1960s. And I remember that because when the evidence for a beginning to space-time came in, the leading members of the British scientific establishment said, we don't go down that road. Why? It'll give too much leverage to people who believe the Bible. Now we're in the situation where the general opinion of cosmologists is space-time had a beginning. Okay, so what was there before? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. in the philosophical sense, absence of anything. But you can't get a universe from nothing. So the way they now do it is to redefine nothing. I mean, Lawrence Krauss, who's an astrophysicist, says something.
Oh my goodness! You get on to him. I'm interested in anything you have to say about him. It's hilarious.
Absolutely hilarious, I'm afraid. Forgive me, but he says because something is physical, nothing must be physical, especially if you define it as the absence of something. Well, that's sheer nonsense. No, now, I had the opportunity to debate with Alan Guth, who's the father of inflation theory at the Harvard MIT. Borde, Guth, and Vilenkin, brilliant mathematicians. And I had a very friendly public debate at the Harvard MIT faculty club. And I asked Alan publicly, I said, you know, there's much ado about nothing going on about there. People outside, people are really confused about nothing. Now, Alan, I said, when you talk about nothing as a cosmologist, you don't mean what most of us mean by nothing, absence of anything. No, he said, we don't. They talk about a quantum vacuum and they talk about, but that isn't nothing. And so the public is being confused. And I say it's ironic because here are these very intelligent people writing endless books and getting something from nothing. But to do it, they have to redefine nothing. They have not solved the question. Whereas, from the Christian point of view, the question is solved. Because there wasn't nothing. There was God, who's non-physical. God is spirit. And he caused it all to be, and he supports it in being. That makes perfect sense. The other doesn't.
Bill, what does it mean for God to have created the world from nothing?
I think we can understand this doctrine by differentiating, as Aristotle did, between types of causes. Aristotle said that one type of cause is what he called an efficient cause. This would be the cause that produces the effect in being. The material cause, said Aristotle, is the stuff out of which the effect is made. Now, the doctrine of creation states that God is the efficient cause of everything exterior to himself, and that there is no material cause out of which these entities were made. That God has created all the matter and energy in the universe, space and time themselves, without any material substratum, out of nothing.
So let's layer on this the latest thinking in cosmology, which brings everything back to a point in time in which there is violent energy from which everything later develops.
Yes.
So what you're saying is that God somehow placed that there, or
yes, that he produced it. He brought it into being. One of the most exciting aspects of this doctrine of creation is that although it was denied by ancient Greek philosophy and denied by modern Enlightenment materialism and idealism, this doctrine finally, in the 20th century, has received dramatic scientific confirmation through astrophysical cosmology, which says that if you go back into the past, space shrinks down and finally comes to a boundary before which nothing existed, that space and time are finite in the past. And this has been rigorously demonstrated to be the beginning of the universe. And this is confirmatory of the doctrine of creation, which says that God has brought everything into being out of nothing.
A lot of people in the church look at the Big Bang as some kind of godless myth. Rather, you need to see it as an opportunity to demonstrate to people outside the church and the Christian community that the Bible indeed is accurate when it speaks about the universe and indeed is the inspired, inerrant Word of God. It's the Bible that for thousands of years was the only text that was saying we live in a universe with an actual space-time beginning, where God is doing things before he creates our universe of matter, energy, space, and time. For thousands of years, it was the only text that was saying we live in a universe that continuously expands. And likewise, the statements it makes about the fact that we live in a universe where the laws of physics don't change and where the universe is dominated by a pervasive law of decay. Now, what you learn in physics, junior high physics, is that any system that expands under the influence of the second law of thermodynamics must get colder and colder as it expands. So notice the Bible is telling us that the universe is expanding under a pervasive law of decay, and therefore the universe must get colder and colder as it gets older and older in a highly predictable way. And now we've got actual measurements that demonstrate that what the Bible's been stating about the universe for thousands of years, uniquely stating about the universe for thousands of years, indeed is correct. A dramatic example of how this text we call the Bible accurately predicts future scientific discoveries and consistently predicts future scientific discoveries. So yes, I would encourage you, use this as a tool to bring people to faith in Jesus Christ.
Such a transcendent cause must possess a number of striking properties. As the cause of space and time, this cause must transcend space and time, and therefore exist non-temporally and non-spatially, at least without the universe. This cause must therefore be changeless and immaterial, since something can be timeless only if it is unchanging, and something can be unchanging only if it is immaterial. It must also be unimaginably powerful, since it created all matter and energy, space and time. Finally, and most remarkably, such a transcendent cause must be personal. Two reasons can be given for this conclusion. First, the only entities we know of which can be timeless and immaterial are either minds or abstract objects like numbers. But abstract objects don't stand in causal relations. Therefore, the transcendent cause of the origin of the universe must be an unembodied mind. Secondly, only a free agent can account for the origin of a temporal effect from a timeless cause. If the cause of the universe were an impersonal, mechanically operating cause, then the cause could never exist without its effect. For if the sufficient condition of the effect is given, then the effect must be given as well. The only way for the cause to be timeless, but for its effect to begin in time, is for the cause to be a personal agent who freely chooses to create an effect in time without any antecedent determining conditions. And thus we are brought not merely to a transcendent cause of the universe, but to its personal creator. Therefore, from the cosmological argument alone, we may conclude that a personal creator of the universe exists, who is uncaused, beginningless, changeless, immaterial, timeless, spaceless, and unimaginably powerful.
¿Existe Dios? ¿O es el universo material todo lo que existe, existió o existirá? Una manera de responder esa pregunta es el argumento cosmológico. Y se formula así: todo lo que comienza a existir tiene una causa. El universo comenzó a existir. Por lo tanto, el universo tiene una causa. ¿Es la primera premisa verdadera? Veamos. Creer que algo puede saltar a la existencia sin una causa es una exageración más grande que creer en la magia. Al menos con la magia tenemos un sombrero y un mago. Y si algo puede llegar a existir de la nada, ¿por qué no vemos eso suceder todo el tiempo? No, la experiencia cotidiana y la evidencia científica confirman nuestra primera premisa: si algo comienza a existir, debe tener una causa. ¿Qué hay de la segunda premisa? ¿El universo comenzó a existir o siempre ha existido? Regularmente, los ateos decían que el universo existió siempre. El universo simplemente está ahí y punto. Consideremos primero la segunda ley de la termodinámica. Esa ley nos dice que el universo se está quedando sin energía usable. Y ese es el punto. Si el universo hubiese existido por siempre, ya se hubiese quedado sin energía usable. La segunda ley nos apunta hacia un universo que tiene un comienzo definido. Eso también es confirmado por una serie de descubrimientos científicos extraordinarios. En 1915, Albert Einstein presentó su teoría general de la relatividad. Por primera vez se refirió de una manera significativa de la historia del pasado del universo. Luego, Alexander Friedman y Georges Lemaitre, que trabajaron con las ecuaciones de Einstein, predijeron que el universo se está expandiendo. En 1929, Edwin Hubble midió el desplazamiento al rojo de la luz de las galaxias distantes. Esta evidencia empírica no solo confirmó que el universo se está expandiendo, sino que surgió de la existencia de un solo punto en el pasado finito. Eso fue un descubrimiento monumental, casi más allá de la comprensión. Sin embargo, no todos están apegados a un universo finito. Y no pasó mucho tiempo para que surgieran a existir otros modelos alternativos, pero uno por uno, esos modelos no pasaron la prueba del tiempo. Más reciente, 3 de los principales cosmólogos, Arvid Bord, Alan Guth y Alexander Vilenkin, comprobaron que cualquier universo que en promedio se haya estado expandiendo por toda su historia no puede ser eterno en el pasado, sino que debe tener un comienzo absoluto. Eso incluso se aplica al multiverso, si es que existe tal cosa. En resumen, los científicos ya no se pueden esconder detrás de un universo eterno en el pasado. No hay manera de escapar. Tienen que confrontar el problema de un comienzo cósmico. Cualquier modelo adecuado debe tener un comienzo, tal como el modelo patrón. Entonces es muy plausible que ambas premisas del argumento sean verdaderas, es decir, la conclusión también es verdadera. El universo tiene una causa. Y como el universo no se puede causar a sí mismo, su causa debe estar más allá del universo espacio-tiempo. Debe ser sin límite de espacio, atemporal, inmaterial, no causada e inimaginablemente poderosa, muy similar a Dios. El argumento cosmológico demuestra que, de hecho, es bastante razonable creer que Dios sí existe.